Welcome back everyone. We are now up to cards 5 and 6 of our beautiful range of slimline cards using the new Close to My Heart colours and using this fun stamp set called Floral Sentiments from the new Core catalogue. So we have already completed this and this one so far, which have all been really fun to do. This one in particular, you were creating your own background paper and didn't it look lovely, fun and bright? So we're going to finish off today with these last two cards here. And one of these is my absolute favourite. So we're going to start off with this one here that says Best Wishes. This has just a small amount of stamping. Again, we're creating just a small little bit of background on our square piece. We are going to be using Papaya, Sundance, Periwinkle, Harbour and Sage. The same colours we've been using for a little while now. So what I'm going to do is grab out the little envelope, and in here are all the pieces you need. So as you can see, this is a great card to have up the stash as an idea because it only uses just a tiniest little bit of paper, cardstock and a little bit of white daisy at the top. So that's what we're going to be using. So the bit of stamping we need to do first is on this square piece. So I'll set these other ones aside. We'll turn this over for a little bit of background stamping so it's a nice spongy surface. And I will bring in a little bit of scratch paper. It's looking a bit messy now, this paper. And I'm going to be doing some stamping on this square piece here around the edges, which is why I want to use a bit of scrap paper behind it. Right, the first one we're going to use is this half flower here, the larger half flower. So this one we're going to do in Papaya, and we're actually going to do the center of it with our little tiny flower that we used in the last card as the little bud on top of our single stem. So that's going to be our little center. So we'll grab out the Papaya ink. We've got those two stamps ready to go. And as you can see in my sample one, that the Papaya is actually lovely and light. So this is where we're going to do second generation stamping. Stamp off and then stamp on, overlapping with the edge, and it's a lovely light colour. We'll do this again. We'll do one sort of coming off each side. Another one over here. And then another one coming from the top. Beautiful shade of sort of a pinky peach when you do it the second generation like that. And now we're going to bring in that cute little flower bud, and we're not going to do second generation this time, we're just going to do first generation, and that's going to give us that nice little central piece, a little bit different to the ovals we have been using. Nice and easy. So that part has been done. Now we're going to set the Papaya aside, and we're going to bring in the beautiful bright Sundance yellowy shade. Okay, so the Sundance is using this smaller scattered half flower. So we're going to pull that in first generation, nice and bright. Again, coming off the page a little bit, just so that it's nice and running into our creation well. And we'll do another one coming from this side. So I'm just keeping it really typical in my design. I've left a couple of patches purposefully because we want to bring in some other colours as well. So that's it with our Sundance. Now we're going to bring in, let's just see, we're going to bring in, I might bring in Sage. So for Sage, we'll use that one soon, but this for Sage, we're just going to use the single flower stem and just pull in and create a multiple effect all the way around. So I'm just going to have some little stems coming in. Might do multiple over this corner because it's a bigger area. A nice big one coming down there. A little one coming in over here. And one coming in from the base over here. So we've got our little stems going now, and we're going to add a few flowers on top. So for the flower, we're actually using the inside piece of our single flower layer, that tiny little one, and we're going to use the periwinkle. Now you don't just have to put the flower at the end of your stem, like I've done there, but I can also bring in a little flower further down as though it's just got flowers all the way along the stem. So I'll show you probably a bit clearer over here. If I do one on that one, this one can just have one at the end. This one's got one at the end there, and one at the end of that one. So that looks really fun. It's brought on a bit of that beautiful colour, and it looks like a cute little bud, even though we know that that's the inner layer of the bud. It looks pretty fine. So the final thing we need to add in here on this piece is our sentiment. So I'm going to do Sorry for Your Loss this time, which is a lovely little font on the sentiment, and I'm using the Harbour ink. Now, when you ink up using a bigger block, I've used all my little blocks, so I'm using a slightly bigger block for the sentiment. Be sure to wipe around the edges and get rid of any excess before you go to stamp. You don't want to have a real horrible splotchy finish. Hold that down nice and still for a few seconds, and we've got a lovely sentiment there, ready to go. Looking good. So that's going to be matted with our pine cardstock. So I'll just quickly stick those together. All ready to go. You could edge around this obviously with a little ink pad and finish it off if you want to have that definition. It does look nice. I've kept it simple this time. So that's going to be the center of our card. Now we're going to get our card base, and we're going to stamp directly onto the card base. So I'm going to first off pop on those strips so that I can line up where I want that stamping to go. So we're going to start with our honey butter down the bottom, and it is going to be roughly, let's just see what they've done. Well, I've done, it's quarter, half, just between half and 3/4 of an inch up is where I started. So let's say 3/4 of an inch, just to give you an actual amount. So I'm just going to line that up against my Versamat, 3/4 of an inch up, and it's probably going to be about half an inch in. I'll just see if I'm correct. Oh no, 1/4 of an inch in. So 3/4 of an inch up and 1/4 of an inch in is where we want our first line to go. That looks great. Right, then we're going to bring in our beautiful colour of the year, which is a lovely melon. So I'll just add a bit of tape to that. Now that's just going to be 1/8 of an inch up from the previous one. So pretty close. And then we're going to bring in that Seabrook. Very, very beautiful shade. And again, just 1/8 of an inch up. Now, because it is a skinny strip, and if you're using tape runner like I am, you often will, actually I'm going to pull that one across a little bit more. You often will end up with a little bit of stray tape on either side. So I'm just going to grab my rub and remove eraser, and we're going to tidy that up before we continue. There we go, that looks better. And let's just use the rub and remove eraser, which is our real trusty tool. It's one of those things I think if you're starting out doing scrapbooking or card making, it's just one of the most useful tools. So you often want to move things around, just like I did then. Things weren't quite measured correctly. And you often have overhanging adhesive. And this just gets rid of it all. Nice and simply. There we go. That looks a lot tidier. So that's going to be the base. Now we can flip back over and we can do our stamping. So we've just got a little scattering of leaves along the top here. So I have chosen to use these skinnier leaves, and we're going to use the two in, there's the other one, in two slightly different orientations. To make it easy for myself, I've actually lined the two up on the one block, but obviously you could just do one of the leaves and then do the other leaf and just take turns with it. So I'm going to start here, go over the top, and just keep inking all my way along. Now I do know that we're going to be covering over that section, but it just keeps the spacing nice and even. And I'll just see, am I going to get both in? Oh yes, pretty good. Okay, so that's our lovely little string of leaves. This is going to go in here, and then this card will be virtually done. So let's just grab a bit of foam tape to raise that so that it stands out, gives us a lovely shadow definition. Pop a couple of these little ones in the middle. We'll take off the backing of those directly into our rubbish bin. Otherwise you find these little peelings all over the floor. At least I do. They seem to fly around. Okay, so we're going to pop that gorgeous little designed square in the center, and we finish off with our little bits and pieces, and we're just going to create some cute flowers out of those stems. So that one there, we can do a cute little flower, and we'll bring a smaller one in from the other side. In fact, I think I might make that one a bit smaller too. Let's just see. Maybe. Yeah, that one definitely needs to be smaller down the bottom. So do we want to go for those two? I want that one to go upwards a bit and that one to go downwards a bit. Yes, I think those are a good size. So I'm going to stick with those. So I'm just going to get out my glue again. Put a tiny bit of glue on the back. And a little bit of glue on the back of this one. And then we have another beautiful card, all complete and ready to send when necessary. So there we go. Number 5 card is complete. And we'll come back in a minute and we will get started on card number 6. Right, we're up to card number 6, which I think we've saved the best for last. I absolutely love this card. And I think why I love this card so much is that it looks like a real watercolor effect. But we're stamping it. We're not drawing it with watercolor paints, but it looks pretty much like that. So card number 6, again, does not use a lot of cardstock. It's got a strip of our beautiful periwinkle with some white daisy on top. And then it's got a few little scraps of colour out the back. So that is it, guys. These last 2 cards barely use any of your supplies, so you don't need much on hand to be able to recreate these, so long as you've got this beautiful stamp set. So let's get started. We are going to be doing a beautiful backdrop using the colours of papaya, periwinkle, sage and Sundance this time. Okay, we're not going to be going off the page, so I don't really need a scrap paper behind it. But what I'm going to do is first of all start with my sentiment so that I've got sort of a basis for tying everything else in. So I'm going to do To the Happy Couple again. It is such a lovely card for a wedding or an engagement or an anniversary, something special for a couple of people. So I'm using a beautiful periwinkle shade, the brand new shade that you should have in your kit. And we are going to be stamping this right in the center. Let me hope I've got it straight, giving it I'm slightly off kilter under the camera here. Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, so there's our To the Happy Couple. So that's our little central point, so we know where else to put the flowers. We're going to start with our largest flower. So once again, we pull back this beautiful flower. And we're kind of going to do a bit of a mirror image. We're going to do it in one direction on top with the petals drooping downwards. Then we're going to do it in the other direction from the bottom with the petal drooping upwards. Right, now you will notice that the papaya looks a beautiful shade. Now this is not first generation, it's second generation, so you will need your scrap paper just to stamp off on the side. So I'm just going to do stamp off there, and then I'm going to bring in a beautiful flower here. Okay, that's a nice soft flower. Now the second one is a little bit down. We're going to have other things in between. So bear that in mind when you're stamping it. So you're going to stamp off and we're going to bring it in about there. Absolutely beautiful. I love the shade it comes when you do second generation like that. Now we're going to bring in first generation papaya with our little centerpiece. So the centerpiece is very close to it over here. So making sure your little petals are drooping in the right direction, line it up and place it over the top. In fact, I'm going to do second generation this time round, so if you haven't started, do that too. I think it's a better effect. It's much more watercolorish. Okay, so I will do the odd dark one just to tie that one in now, but I do prefer the lighter look personally. So that's our papaya at this point. We will go back to that shade soon. We're now going to bring in Sundance. And Sundance is doing the half flower over in the bottom corner. So we will get, again, the second generation stamp it off, and that one's going to come on over here. And we're going to do the same thing, and this one's going to be just below here, coming to the side a bit. So that was second generation as well. And then we've got another one further down, and that's second generation as well. There we go, looks beautiful. Right, I'll just wipe that off because I need to reuse this block. And we're going to bring in the little piece that goes inside, which is positioned beside it on the block, on the mat. So let's just pull that one in. And we're going to stick to our Sundance. And this time it is first generation to have a nice differentiation. However, I will do one without so you can see the difference. So this will just be a softer one up the top, which looks rather pretty. So I think mixing and matching is also a nice way to go. There we go. So we have got a couple of those flowers sorted. The next one we're going to do, I think, will be, let's just have a little look. I think I actually might bring in the stem. So we need the little stem here. That's just got its own little buddy bit coming up. I forgot to pull that one off, so we'll grab that one now. And we're going to use that little stem underneath these yellow flowers that we just made. So I'll steal this little block here, and we will be using our beautiful sage. I think sage is my favourite green at the moment in our range. I pull on it a lot. So let me just do this one down here. Rather cute. I'm on down here. And then we're going to pull in the other one on the other orientation, because the flower on the top needed us to come from a slightly different angle. There we go, it's looking rather gorgeous. Right, now we need to bring in a few other little sagey elements. We might as well do that at the same time. So I'm going to pull in some cute little flowers down here. A few little flowers over this way. And a few little flowers over this way. So let's see how these work. So these are going to go back to papaya. Our beautiful shade of papaya, and we're going to do second generation to do the nice soft. So that was our leafy piece over here, and now we're going to do our bud on the top with second generation papaya. So we're just going to line those up, hold it down for a few seconds, and do the same on all those spots that we had stamped the leaves. So pretty. Here we go, and we're going to fill in those little buds with their inner piece, which I need to get off the carrier sheet. I think we're almost using every flower piece on this one. Very cute though. Okay, and we're going to do slightly darker. So on some of these, I'm going to do full papaya. And on others, I'm going to just do a very quick tap. And then, so it is second generation, but it's only just, because I'm only just tapping it off. That looks rather sweet. Right, so we have got a few random leaves to add into the mix. So these leaves are in sage, and they're just kind of filling in a few of the spaces. So these are just kind of fun. You can do them however you want. You could do first, you can second generation, or just the one. I'm just going to do the one. Pop them around. Another one, we'll just pop it out over here. There's no rhyme or reason why these leaves are here. They're just kind of adding a bit of interest, really. Right, so that's looking neat. And the last little thing we're going to do is a small amount of bursts with, let me just find it, with our periwinkle again. And we are using the small little bursty one here. So let me just find that. Pop it onto a block. And we're going to do it second generation. So it's just a nice little soft effect floating around the page. Doesn't that look cool? I love this card. I just think it is just so pretty, really delicate. And you can just keep going or stop at this point. I think that's looking rather nice now. so I'm going to leave it at that. So simple. To finish it off now, we're just going to edge it with our periwinkle cardstock. So I'll just attach that one. And we're going to get our card base to put our little strips on. So lining up those corners correctly. Oops, that moved. Right, so the corners, we are actually going to place the first one, Seabrook, at about 9 inches from the bottom. So 0 up to 9 inches, that's your top line of it. Oh, no, it's not 9 inches, it's 6 inches. I'm just reading it wrong, reading it upside down. Made me think I was talking at 9. 6, that sounds better. And then we're going to use a little thin strip of periwinkle. I might actually use the light side. And tuck that underneath. And then let's just raise this up with some foam tape to finish. So how have you found using this beautiful stamp set? I think this is one of those stamp sets that once you start playing, you start to uncover the possibilities. We've stuck to one colour theme throughout all of these cards. However, you could turn some of these cards into a beautiful Christmas effect with some deep greens and deep reds. You could bring in a lot more pink. You could also bring in a lot more purples. You could be doing more primary colours. So if you start playing with the different colour sources, you'll see that the effect will be quite different. And it's just lovely how it layers up. I think that's the beauty of it. We're getting quite a realistic look. Very watercolourish effect when we do second generation stamping. It's just a stunning stamp all round. So there's card number 6, all complete as well. So we've done all of the 6 cards. Look back on my previous 2 videos if you missed those. And then the next one and the final one in the series will be using all of the skills and techniques, and we will be placing them onto a layout. So I thought I'd finish, but I just realised I hadn't put in my little wood elements. So let's just pop in a few little wooden elements here and there on the page. Might do another little one like this. There we go, and we will just put in a cutesy little, gosh, these are cut so fine, yet they still come out really well, and that's going to sit on top. So that's the finished effect. Thanks guys for joining me on this little series of 6 slimline cards, and I hope you return when we talk about scrapbooking with the same stamp set soon. See you soon.